Genesis 4:7 is one of my favorite texts in all of Scripture, and it's God having this conversation with Cain, and Cain is frustrated about something so silly, and it eventually will lead to murder. And God says, sin is crouching at your doorstep. It's ready to pounce. It's ready to make you its prey. It's ready to rule over you. And he tells Cain, but you can master it. You can rule over it. You have the ability with the wisdom of God to rule over sin. But it's your choice. You see, unrepentant sin, the little foxes in our lives, we might think we have a hold of them, but eventually they will make that snowball effect, where they will affect everyone in your life. And it will break you apart from your relationship with God, and there will be this chasm that you cannot feel any longer. That's where David's at right now. And David doesn't even realize it, and sometimes we don't even realize it as individuals, that we have sin within our life that needs to be dealt with. Which leads to our second question. Am I justifying my sin? Sometimes we believe it's easier to justify our sin rather than deal with it. The longer we justify our sin, the harder it is to deal with. And we're like, well, maybe it'll just be easier if it just all boils over and everybody sees it. David's going to have some effect of that. We have experienced some effect of that. But we can no longer justify our sin when we are told the gospel, when Jesus is put front and center of our lives, and we know that Jesus died on the cross for the sin that we are justifying. As believers, as Christians, my prayer is that when we see sin, we would deal with it, and we would not justify it. Third question, is my life reflecting the wisdom of God? This is one of those litmus tests where if we don't see the fruit of the Spirit in our lives, maybe there is a sin we need to deal with. If we don't see the fruit of the Spirit in our lives, if we hate the wisdom of God, if we want to rule over our own life and make our own choices based on what we deem good and evil, that should be a red flag for us. And it should lead us to do something. And it's going to be what David does as we read this next part of the text. Nathan is going to come to him as a prophet of God, and Nathan is going to tell him this story because everybody likes stories. We're disarmed by stories. And he's going to tell David of this story of this guy who's coming, and there's two individuals. There's one with one sheep and a shepherd with many sheep. And the king is going to throw this party for an individual, and instead of going to the man with many sheep, he goes to the man with one sheep. And this man dearly loved his sheep. He loved it like a son. And the king takes that sheep and he uses it at the banquet, and the man is left with no sheep. And as Nathan is telling this story, you can see David beginning to become angry, because he probably thinks that this is happening in Israel. And so he's like, as a king, man, bring justice to this man. Kill him. Who is this guy? And Nathan in 2 Samuel 12, he says to David, you are the man. Talk about a blow to your ego. Talk about a slice of humble pie, or whatever you want to call it, that Nathan would call him out. With the same anger that David had against this man, with this made-up story, Nathan says, you are this man. And this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says to you. I anointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your arms. I gave you all Israel and Judah. And if all this had been too little, I would have given you even more. Why did you despise the word of the Lord by doing what is evil in his eyes? You struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword and took his wife to be your own. You killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. And now, therefore, the sword will never depart from your house, because you despised me and took the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your own. Nathan points out David's sin.